2nd and 1, they go play action.
64 yards.
Tyreek Hill touchdown.
CBA-wise, Teddy, you're part of that union.
For a long time, Tyreek Hill was the most dangerous man on a football field. The Cheetah, a blur in cleats. A player so terrifying at full speed that entire defensive schemes were built just to slow him down before the snap. Was it worth it? Right now, that question is attached to everything he does. Because on April 8th, 2026, his wife, Cheetah, filed for divorce in Miami-Dade County Circuit Court. 6 days later, she filed an amended petition containing 8 counts of domestic abuse. 8 separate, documented allegations of physical and emotional violence during their marriage. Within days of that, the NFL opened a formal investigation under its personal conduct policy. Investigators have been working directly with Vaccaro, who has sought to submit Hill's civil divorce depositions to the league. Under updated NFL guidelines, a baseline 6-game unpaid suspension applies if physical force violations are confirmed. For any team thinking about signing Hill right now, that is not a minor footnote. That is the main headline. And it is sitting on top of a career that was already unraveling long before any of it was filed in court. The injury started it all. September 29th, 2025, a Monday Night Football game against the New York Jets, Week 4. Hill was running a route along the sideline when defensive back Malachi Moore made the tackle. His left leg twisted and hyperextended at a brutal angle. The result was a complete knee dislocation combined with a multi-ligament tear, including the ACL. When Hill was carted off the field, he was smiling and waving to the crowd. He later told former teammate Teron Armstead that when he saw his crooked leg, he knew the season was over and called it a party score. He said he felt at peace. He had played 10 years and was grateful. He genuinely meant it. But peace and reality are two different things. A knee dislocation is not like a standard ACL tear. It is a far more dangerous injury. The force required to dislocate a knee can destroy multiple structures all at once. The PCL, MCL, LCL, in the posterolateral corner. The popliteal artery, sitting directly behind the joint, can be torn or compressed. If blood flow is not restored fast enough, amputation is a real possibility. The peroneal nerve can also be damaged, potentially causing permanent foot drop, which limits how a player can run and accelerate. This is not a routine setback. This is the kind of injury that permanently changes careers. Hill's agent Drew Rosenhaus pushed an optimistic message after the initial surgery. He said everything went well. He said no second surgery would be needed. He said Hill would be ready for the start of next season. None of it held up. Reports later confirmed that Hill was forced to undergo an unscheduled second surgery to deal with complications. The agent's messaging collapsed. The real picture became far darker than anyone in Hill's camp had wanted to admit. The data on this type of injury is sobering. For a standard isolated ACL tear, the return-to-play rate sits at around 61%. For a multi-ligament dislocation with posterolateral corner involvement, that number drops to around 55%. The chance of returning to the same elite performance level is just 18.5%. For Hill, who turned 32 in March 2026, the recovery window is 15 to 18 months. His earliest realistic return is late 2026 or early 2027. By then, muscle atrophy and the natural loss of fast-twitch fibers make it biologically unlikely that he will ever reach that 4.29-second speed again. And the brutal truth is that even before he got hurt, the version of Hill that Miami had paid top dollar for was already in decline. In 2023, he had one of the greatest wide receiver seasons in NFL history. 1,799 yards, 112.4 yards per game. He averaged 87.6 yards per game across all 4 seasons in Miami, outpacing Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss, and Jerry Rice at their absolute peaks. He set a Dolphins franchise record that no receiver has come close to touching. But 2024 told a different story. Defenses began using deep split safety coverages to neutralize his vertical threat. It worked. Hill finished that season with just 959 yards, averaging 56.4 yards per game. He failed to hit 1,000 yards in a full season for the first time since 2019. His yards per catch fell from 15.1 to 11.8. He was being pushed onto shorter routes, taking more contact, and generating far less of the explosive damage that made him worth the contract. Fans called it fool's gold. Critics pointed to the 2023 playoff loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, played in freezing conditions, where Hill was shut down at the line and disappeared in the biggest game of Miami's season. Miami had signed him to a 3-year, $90 million extension in August 2024. $54 million guaranteed. They were trying to protect their investment. Then the injury happened, and the $51.13 million cap hit scheduled for 2026 became completely untenable. The Dolphins cut him on February 16, 2026, absorbing a dead cap charge of $28.25 million and walking away with a net cap saving of $20.78 million. It was a painful decision. It was also the only one that made any sense for a franchise tearing everything down. By then, the team itself was unrecognizable. New GM John Eric Sullivan, new head coach Jeff Hafley. The front office traded Jalen Waddle to Denver, cut Bradley Chubb, and signed young quarterback Malik Willis to a 3-year, $67.5 million deal. They selected 13 players in the draft and committed fully to a youth rebuild. Former depth receiver Malik Washington became the most targeted pass catcher on the roster. There was simply no place in that vision for an aging, injured veteran carrying an NFL investigation and 8 abuse allegations in a court filing. The rebuild moved on without him the moment the contract was signed. This is not the first time Hill's off-field behavior has created problems. In college, he pleaded guilty to domestic assault and battery by strangulation at Oklahoma State. He was dismissed from the team and placed on 3 years of probation. In 2019, while with the Chiefs, he faced a child abuse investigation involving his 3-year-old son. No charges were filed. In 2023, a marina assault case in Florida was resolved out of court. And in September 2024, just hours before a home game at Hard Rock Stadium, Hill was pulled over, forcibly removed from his vehicle by Miami-Dade police, thrown face first onto the pavement, and handcuffed. The traffic citations were later dismissed when officers failed to appear in court. So Hill entered the 2026 free agent market carrying all of that. National reporters described the market as tepid, with almost zero buzz from front offices, citing physical status, legal baggage, and distraction risk. The Chiefs remain the most likely destination, with insiders reporting a 55 to 60% chance of a reunion. But even there, younger receivers like Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are already entrenched in the offense. Hill would have to accept a reduced rotational role. The Chargers have a deep ball scheme that fits his skills, but ownership there has a long-standing aversion to players with documented off-field issues. The Ravens are cautious because of the active domestic violence investigation. Most other teams have simply moved on. Adding to the pressure, Hill supports at least 7 children with multiple women. Some estimates put that number even higher. He has several active paternity suits still working through the courts. Sports business analysts have warned that without regular multi-million-dollar game checks, his mounting child support obligations represent a fast track towards serious financial difficulty in retirement. The money that made him one of the highest paid receivers in the league for years is now working against him from the other direction. During rehab, he turned to EDM. He started DJing at venues in Miami, performing under his own name. What began as an off-season hobby quickly became something more serious. Hill built a following, performed regularly, and began talking about the music as a real passion. The image of Hill behind the decks rather than in a training facility has started to tell its own story. For a player who built his entire identity around being the fastest man on the field, that shift says everything about where things now stand. At his best, Tyreek Hill was something special. The records stand. The franchise numbers will not be touched for years. He was the most dangerous vertical weapon Miami has ever seen. But this league does not run on loyalty. It runs on production. His speed made teams willing to overlook everything. Once that speed came into serious doubt after the dislocation, the tolerance disappeared fast. The injury changed the maths. The allegations added more weight. The market went quiet. Maybe he lands a low-cost role with a contender before the season ends. Maybe the DJ career becomes the main event. Either way, the era of the Cheetah as a dominant, high-earning force in this league has come to an end. And looking at everything, the records, the money, the injuries, the court filings, it is hard not to come back to that one question. Was it worth it?